welcome once again to Superconnectivity. I'm your host, Charlie, the Professor Esser, and with me as always is...
Philman Parrish.
Hey, great to have you, Phil. And tonight we have a very special guest, a man who I will be honest with you, he's the man who inspired me to move towards a professional level of comic book nerdery. The author of Was Superman a Spy and other classics, the driving force, at least in my opinion, behind many of the great things we see on comic book resources, Brian Cronin. How are you today, Brian?
Excellent, guys. Good to be here.
So glad to have you. Now, it's kind of amazing. I was actually trying to do research on you, Brian. You do not have a Wikipedia page.
Well, that's probably a good thing, right?
I guess so in the long run. On Superconnectivity, we do try to be as nerdy as possible. And this is possibly some uber level nerd, because I am really excited right now, Brian, because as I said, I first came across you on Comic Book Legends Revealed, which, for those who don't know, you should be reading Comic Book Legends Revealed over at CBR. And the Legends Revealed website where Brian does put up a wide range, not just comic books, but music and television and movie legends and the whole kit and caboodle over there. I first came in contact with you and was just awestruck by the work you do. How did you first decide to make searching down obscure comic book lore a career?
Like most of these things, it certainly wasn't something that you sought out for. When I formed Comics Should Be Good it's coming on 12 years ago, it was just a hobby.
Mm-hmm.
But soon we were getting so popular, and then when CBR hired us on to be a blog on them, then eventually I was doing this more and more, and I was doing my other work less and less.
Wow. That is the dream. I think that is what all of us in the podcasting and blogging community dream about, is to someday have this fun thing we do for free just become our dominant goal. Now, as I said, your first big hit book was Superman a Spy, which now did you start writing that book for Comic Book Legends, or did you just compile your comic book legends and make that into the book?
Generally speaking, it was half was I guess you'd say the best of, and half was brand new legends just for that book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then you had another book come out. And I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the name, regarding shark repellent.
Oh yeah, why does Batman carry shark repellent?
Mm-hmm. Yes. And what was
that? Was basically that was taking sort of a list, which as you see, a lot of the stuff is very list based nowadays. Mm-hmm. And that book was a lot of lists. Me plus some comic creators, Peter David, Jeff Johns, they all contributed lists for the book as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, and as you say, there's a lot of list based. I mean, that's really become the method of conveying knowledge now, it seems. Just the latest top 10 lists of various ideas. And, I first got turned to you, from Cracked, which, I don't know if you've ever noticed, they tend to go to your well a lot. And it's always...
Well, Cracked, there was, I believe, one particular writer who went to my well a bit too much.
Yeah.
To the point where CBR's owner had to contact Crack's owner and discuss about maybe this shit was going on a little too much.
Yeah. I mean, I'll say this: I'm thankful to them, because without them, I wouldn't have found you. But and it's something that kind of bugs me now in the modern landscape of internet media. How I'll click on a site, and it'll say, and it's, oftentimes you'll have the link to the original article, but it's like someone else's sort of review of this article or just, that aggregating nature of it. And I do wonder, as a creator of original content and, the stuff that is the sweat of your brow, I mean, how does that sit with you? I mean, is it, well, they are promoting me and I'm making my own bones here. I have my fans. And so if they're doing the cross promotion, it's okay. Or is it, man, I really wish these people would stop?
I mean, generally speaking, I can't complain very much. I mean, even my stuff is quote unquote original content, but much of my work a lot of it's based on someone at one point got the information. This didn't just come into the ether. So, I mean, occasionally, yes, I'll have things where it'll be a direct interview with a creator or an artist, and they'll tell me stuff that's, yes, it's completely original. But mostly, I'm citing because you have to cite in order for people to believe you.
Yeah.
So I'm citing people as well. So I can't worry. I can't get too much upset about stuff like that. The only issue is when you see these things like, I remember there was one, like a 50 Marvel list where clearly they just gone through my column, and for every one of their entries was clearly just listed directly from my column.
And so now you actually have like, I actually, because you have so many features on CBR. How many do you actually have that are active, and how many are like you did one article but it's still listed there? Do you have any idea even how many different platforms you have over at CBR right now?
Well, currently speaking, generally right now I'm doing X amount of lists every week, which is obviously that's what people are really going for. So I'm doing it, but I'm also doing the columns that I used to have on Comics Should Be Good that are now just part of CBR proper. Although tagged CSBG for people who want to if they really just want to get just the stuff that was on Comics Should Be Good, if they click on that tag, it gives them all the Comics Should Be Good type material, namely Comic Book Legends Revealed, The Line Is Drawn, Abandoned and Forsaked is another one. So other columns, there's a bunch of different columns recurring.
Oh yeah, no.
If I were to count, I think it's actually, it might be like 100.
Yeah. And I love every one of them. I'm going to be honest with you. The Line Is Drawn, honestly, is got to be one of my favorite things. It's my biggest pain is that, I do work a day job and I can't share everything that I on Facebook because of the firewalls. But The Line Is Drawn, for those who don't know, and you have to check out The Line Is Drawn. It is, it's basically various scenarios. You have a stable of really fantastically talented artists, and you sort of give them a vague idea of what the theme is, and then they, with suggestions from the readers, and then they create like a cover or a scene from a book of this crossover. I think recently it was crossovers with Doctor Strange, and of course you had Doctor Stranger Things, and actually, my favorite was, I think, the Steven Universe Doctor Strange was really cute.
Oh, Bernard Tobin, yeah, that was a really good piece. The Doctor Stranger Things is also excellent. That's Marco Delfonso. He's great. He's been doing a lot of covers for Marvel and DC recently. So yeah, he's a really good artist.
Oh yeah, it was just fantastic stuff. And it's like, to me, as this gigantic nerd, it's like you're living this dream because you do get to talk to all these people. And I'm sure that's not as exciting as I think. And Phil just had a great interview with what was her name, Phil? Anne
Nocenti.
Yes. So everyone else is getting to talk to cool people but me right now, except right now when I get to talk to you, Brian. So it's all very exciting to me, and I do apologize if I'm rambling a bit here.
Yeah, of course.
But I do like what you do, and I do like the depth in which you write things and think about things. And one thing I really wanted to do with you is, since you were here, is sort of pick your brain on a couple of concepts. And one of the things I did want to talk about was, which we have talked about on Superconnectivity many times before. And you do a column which I believe is called The Wrong Side, the Wrong Side One.
The wrong side, yeah.
Yeah, the wrong side.
Where, basically whether or not the quote-unquote the wrong side won, yeah.
Yes. Where basically you look at one character who is totally outmatched, say Batman versus the Hulk. Where Batman does, defeat the Hulk in one scene.
He's Batman.
I have that. I honestly, I had that graphic novel that was like one of the first. Like it was actually I bought it as like a trade paperback. That was when I was a younger man and was so excited to read it. And then it's like to see the Hulk defeated with a kick to the solar plexus. It's like I don't know.
But amazing art. But amazing artwork though.
But this gets to actually one of the things that I've said on the show, which is that essentially it seems to me that in the comic book universe there are two powers that are in many ways the ultimate superpower. That are also powers that theoretically anyone can master, and those powers are kung fu and hypnotism. That repeatedly you'll see just about anybody can be hypnotized. And really, often it is, some of these real low-grade villains like the Ringmaster or the Mad Hatter who have these powers, but when they're being applied, they really do seem almost like the greatest power you could have. Like the level of control that you get from that is in many ways disturbing. And then you have its counterbalance in the physical realm of kung fu, where, the guy who is the kung fu master, whether you're Batman or Shang-Chi or just Daredevil, it doesn't matter how much damage you take. It doesn't matter what you're going up against. You hit this person in just the right spot, and that's how you win. And, I wanted your thoughts on this. If you feel that there is a reason for that it does that, do you think that speaks to maybe the desire, the everyman desire of the comic book reader that, if I just trained hard enough, I could be either a master hypnotist and be a supervillain or be a kung fu master and be a superhero? I mean, how do you see that?
I think definitely with Batman in particular, it definitely is that. I mean, that is the definite hook, is that Batman is the guy that theoretically, under the right circumstances, people could be. Mm-hmm. But obviously Batman, I mean, I always think of that line from Batman 681 where he's buried alive, and the issue opens with just blackness because he's buried alive, and then suddenly the caption, but that's the thing about Batman. And then the next page, Batman prepares for everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's obviously the hook with Batman in that regard.
Yeah. And again, I do think that is this recurring theme. And I do see it as that real superhero, supervillain line that you get there, where you have, like I say, a guy like Mad Hatter, a guy like Ringmaster, who have this really disturbing hypnotism power, the mental power, and then this hero power that you don't see as much on the villain side, unless they are the villain of the Kung Fu artist. But right. When you're the hero Kung Fu artist, you really can defeat anybody. And of course, with Batman, it is all about preparation and all of these other things. But you also see, like I say, when Batman fights the Hulk, it is just, knowing that idea that, and that, to me, that was always the interesting thing about that Batman versus the Hulk thing. And maybe that's just my nerdery, is that even though I didn't like it, I felt the need to headcanon it in a certain way to say, well, Hulk isn't he's not in a blind rage, and, Batman's catching him off guard, and the whole point was to get him to inhale the chemicals that he had spilled, and all these things, so it's...
well, that's the joy of all wrong side columns, is people who are very offended at the idea that Hero X would not win a fight.
Yes.
I mean, speaking of martial arts in comics, it was amazing. There's always that interesting trend where whatever the newest character is has to be the best martial artist. Mm-hmm. It can't be that you're like one of the best. It always has to be you are the best. When Green Arrow, Connor Hawke, when Chuck Dixon was writing him, suddenly out of nowhere, Green Arrow of all people had to be the best martial artist in the DC universe.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, like the only one who can keep up with Batman. Yeah. Then
Cassandra Cain shows up. Oh, nope. Cassandra Cain is the best martial artist in the DC universe.
Mm-hmm.
It can never be, they're pretty good. Or it can never be like an obscure character is the best. Like Bronze Tiger can't be the best martial artist in the DC universe because we don't see him very often.
But if he's in the Bronze Tiger book, if you're reading the Suicide Squad with Bronze Tiger is going to step up. And
oh, that's right. Ostrander has that great Batman Bronze Tiger fight towards the end of the original Ostrander Suicide Squad. Very impressive stuff.
Exactly. And that is, and that kind of gets me to another topic I wanted, because I really wanted to get your thoughts on this. And now, I don't know if you're more of a Marvel guy, more of a DC guy. I don't know where your personal passion lies. I do know that you're very knowledgeable in both areas, and one would assume you have to be in your line of work. But one of the things that Marvel has been really, especially since this latest reboot, just sort of hammering, is this idea of their own metafictionality. And this, I think they first did it just before Secret Wars, where they really pushed this in this idea of, and I forget the number of the issue, but it was the last Deadpool issue in the Marvel Universe, where we get
like 245 or something, like 250, something like that.
Yeah. Where we get the secret origin of Deadpool's ability to break the fourth wall. We see he's hired by Thanos, who of course is in his Thanos copter. I really hope the Thanos copter comes into Infinity War. I have said that just 1,000 times. I want it, and it would be so easy to work in there. You just have to suggest that Thanos has business dealings throughout the universe, and that on Earth there is a company called Thanos Incorporated, and there's a little helicopter. You don't even have to have Thanos in it. Just have a helicopter flying across with a Thanos name on the side, and I'll be very happy. But in it, as for those who haven't read it, Thanos has hired Deadpool to steal the, I forget if he's stealing the Infinity Gauntlet or the Cosmic Cube. I believe he steals the Cosmic Cube, and then he gets the Infinity Gauntlet, and essentially he communicates with the Beyonders, as it were. And then that's what allows him to break the fourth wall, and you have a great scene at the end with Howard the Duck, also ability to move beyond the fourth wall, which of course, to me, and for me, that's just a weird nerd thing for me as this big fan of metafiction, in Ambush Bug, in Son of Ambush Bug, when he goes up against the Interferer, and they make the point that because you're fictional, you're the most powerful character in this universe. Because you're the one that's going to be able to just move outside of whatever changes happen because you're fictional. And I find it interesting that Marvel is embracing this idea of metafictionality and even codifying it in the way that they're doing within their own cosmology here, both with Deadpool, the Beyonders, and this idea of the chained eternity in Ultimates, and then along that line about the new character being the best, this introduction of a character named Gwenpool, who is the being from a universe in which the Marvel comics are all fictional. Which is a concept they've touched on before, the idea that certain other universes become fiction in certain universes. I remember in a Superman Fantastic crossover.
DC, that's right. DC had that all the way back in the 70s with the Earth Prime.
Yes. And it's an interesting idea how they're embracing it right now. And I just, how do you feel about metafictionality in comics? Is that something that makes you happy as a comic book reader? Is it something that drives you nuts?
Well, amusingly enough, when I was in college, I wrote my senior honors thesis on metafiction, including at the time, it was new at the time, Promethea. Mm-hmm. So I think that in a lot of cases, I think it's just a matter of a generation. We have a generation of writers who grew up on metafictional stuff. When I was writing about it back in college, barely anyone in the university even knew what I was talking about. It was not as big of a issue as it is now. And so many of these people who are now coming of that age, they've been into metafiction for years, and that's why I think we're seeing those writers work it into all their work, especially guys like the Deadpool writers. I mean, that's been a thing in comedy for years. Mm-hmm. That metafiction aspect, and so I think it's only natural to see them bring it into Deadpool.
Yeah, and they do it amazingly well. I mean, although the most recent $10 book, maybe we Phil and I disagreed on. Well, we didn't disagree. We both agreed that was not worth $10. But
it definitely has a lot of $10 issues, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, that's because somebody, Phil, keeps buying them.
Gotta hold out hope. It's getting me good.
Is it like 3 of the last 10 issues have been $10, right? Something like that?
Yeah, I think this probably is like around the third one this year, I think. It's something like crazy like that.
like 8, 12, and now 21. Okay, I mean, I guess depending on how many they shipped. I guess that's the question.
Well, I mean, it's like the same thing they're doing over at DC. Suicide Squad and Harley Quinn got to be so popular, and now they're like milking the hell out of that thing.
Oh, of course, yeah. I'm still not knocking. It's just amazing to think of 3 $10 comic books within like a year. But no, obviously, I really don't begrudge any of these guys for it. What's funny, it reminds me of when, for years, Tom Brevoort over at Marvel, he's been pretty clear that he personally has never been a fan of multiple versions of heroes.
Mm-hmm.
He's always felt that it diminishes the hero if you do multiple versions of them. If you do Thunderstrike, War Machine, U.S. Agent, things like that, it diminishes the main guys. However, as he noted, people seem to love it, and if people love it, how do you not give it to them? It seems almost foolish to take your personal views and apply it to the comic if that's what people love. If they love Spider-Gwen, they love Silk, give them Spider-Gwen and Silk.
Yeah. And I mean, on that level, of course, Marvel has always had that multiple versions of, where they've always tried to have that female counterpart, the Spider-Woman, the She-Hulk. I guess those were the only two they really had, but, that does get us to that question of diversity in comics. And what I think is kind of neat about Marvel right now is they are definitely, I feel, and I could be wrong because they could just be, just throwing everything at the wall because they are going to reboot everything again in 6 months. We don't really know where they're going with all this, but they are building out their second generation heroes. And I'm really enjoying that. This idea of having new versions of things and new ways to look at characters and characters that don't have a lot of baggage, but that are existing in this universe that has baggage. And I find that really fun. I don't know, but that's me. And I'm a very dyed-in-the-wool Marvel guy. I just started reading.
It reminds me of DC, say late 90s when they were really hitting their generation heroes very hard. And it worked well back then, I thought, when they brought the JSA back, but you also had Young Justice. I thought DC did a very good job with back then developing all these different generations. And of course, very soon they're like, okay, let's get rid of that.
Yeah, and with like multiple versions of each character, it's like you get to explore different storylines you wouldn't before. Like, I mean, well, these days you can, but I mean, back in the day, you couldn't have Captain America killing guys left and right. But I mean, U.S. Agent, you can have him coming and just break necks left and right.
Yeah. Sure. And of course now of course you can have Captain America. Right.
Hail Hydra, right.
Hail Hydra. Yeah, well, although I'm an eternal optimist. I still say that it's a different Hydra that Cap's a part of. This is the kinder, gentler Hydra. This is Hydra. This is the Hydra of Kobik, of a little girl's understanding of what what Hydra would be if a little girl said, "Oh, if you raised her to think that Hydra was a good thing, how might she think it would be good?" And I do think you see that in the flashbacks they've given, which, where you see this idea of Hydra is building schools and, helping out impoverished widows and, and all these things that of course, these are all things that, also sometimes fascists will do to get people on their side. You give them the bread and then they come when you call. And it's an interesting take. I really am enjoying how they're deconstructing Captain America in that right now, and I'm nervous to see where it all goes in the end.
I agree. Spencer, I think, is doing the balancing act between the two books. He's doing is very impressive, I think.
Mm-hmm. Now, you didn't. I don't think you really answered this question. I would actually really love to get it. What do you read for fun?
I'm sorry. I didn't know you. Because I thought we understood it was pretty general. I read everything. Yeah,
I moved beyond it, and then I'm curious. Like if one of the few things I also read on CBR that you don't write is the buy pile.
Oh yes,
yeah, and I'm always fascinated. Sometimes I agree with him, and often I'm like, oh, how could he say that? That was a great book, But I'm always fascinated by what people who are in the comic book world, and really now we have professional comic book fans, which is just an amazing idea to have in this universe. What professional fans like yourself, really like when you go on Wednesday morning, when you go, oh, I can't wait to pick up this, or I can't wait to have sent to my house because I don't pay for comics anymore because I'm world famous now.
Jealousy.
And don't burst my bubble if you do have to pay for comics, because I want to dream that someday.
It's funny how one of the things that changed the most since I started doing this, it's definitely a very good thing. It's a good thing, no doubt about it. But it's also sort of a bad thing, is the rise of the PDF for review copies.
Mm-hmm.
It's obviously very good because people can send out more copies. I don't have to have a pile of books laying around my apartment. But at the same token, PDFs are also a lot easier to not get around to reading than if you have a book laying around, staring at you, saying, you haven't read me yet.
Mm-hmm.
So then let's like this. Okay, I'm sorry. We'll finish your thought.
Yeah, you get.
Okay, so here's my question to you. If you did have to pay for, so like, let's say next week Marvel or DC or Black Dark Horse or IDW, or Image or any of the other many books, because I know you guys you really hit the gambit because it is comic book resources, not the two major producers' resources. If they said, "Oh, we're not going to send you an issue this," what would be the one that you'd be like, "Oh, how can they not send that to me this week? I really need to I really need to find out how this happens." What book would be most disappointing that you'd have to pay for?
I guess what's interesting. I guess one thing I would say perhaps has changed since I've been doing this is I guess you do. I guess you get so entrenched in it that you lose, I guess, a little bit of the same, like, oh my God, I can't wait till that issue comes out, zeal of it all.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, I guess I still do have that with books, so I can't really say that. I mean, there's a lot of books out there that are really interesting. What have I really? Let's see. I guess it would be. Let's say, Saga. There you go. I guess it'd be Saga, because there's always something interesting happening next issue of Saga. So I guess I would go with that.
Very cool. I'm going to have to actually start reading Saga now.
What I do with people, whenever I see people at when I recommend someone when you're at the comic book store, what I'll do is I'll read them the first 3 pages of Saga. Just do the voices and everything. And after the first 3 pages, if you're not intrigued, then, well, I guess that's not the book for you. But it's for most people. So just put the first 3 pages, and I think it'll hook you.
Well, Brian, as the DC guy on the podcast, what are your thoughts on DC Rebirth so far?
It's definitely been better. It's definitely been an improvement. I mean, there's no doubt about that. It's definitely an improvement. I mean, not obviously there was good titles before this change, but it's in general overall, it's definitely been an improvement. I really like what Priest has been doing on Deathstroke. That book got so convoluted during the New 52 that I'm glad that it's very nice to see it go back to sort of a basic idea of the characters.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think he's doing a good job with that. Yeah, let me flip through a pile. Let's see. I've been enjoying, you know what? I think that in general, Hal Jordan and the Green Lantern Corps has been using the 2-week way the book is formatted very well. Yeah. And the fact that they're making it like really boom after boom after boom, which I thought was very impressive. Especially because it's weird, because that's one of the books where they didn't change the writer, and yet it's still improved.
Yeah, it really improved. We have a friend who, she was all down on Hal Jordan, and this book really like picked up her opinion of Hal Jordan and the like 150%.
It's amazing without a writer change. So
yeah.
I guess, I guess maybe, because I mean, then I've liked the Eddie Albert stuff, so. But where he was taking Hal Jordan before Rebirth was in some weird, not particularly interesting directions.
Yeah, well, that's the thing we've been talking about is, do you think that, like, DC's, I mean, they're ahead of Marvel most times in sales now. Do you think is it the trend that readers want more of the old school stuff, the more classic stuff rather than Marvel's, like, new approach with, like, newer versions of characters?
I think that sales the last couple of months, a lot of it has been, this is not a knock on DC, but a lot of it I think has been driven by the fact that they have not had much in either company in the way of event-driven books. That's what usually gets sales.
Mm-hmm.
Marvel Civil War 2 has not been that, hasn't had that much of an effect on them. I expect when we get later, each of them have been announcing some new projects. And I imagine a Clone Conspiracy, you see now the Clone Conspiracy came out, for instance.
Yes.
That has been received well, and the sales on that. So I imagine now they're starting to really come out with some more big books. When you don't have very much in the sense of a big driven event, DC, of course, is going to, because DC with these back-to-back, twice a month shipping is going to overwhelm you.
Yeah.
But do I think it's a case of people trending towards DC because it's more old-fashioned? I mean, not old-fashioned, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I know what you meant by that. Possibly. I really don't know. I mean, some of the books, the newer Fango books have been doing well overall, right? Like Thor. Thor is one of their better sellers.
Mm-hmm. Do you think a big thing too is the price point? Because even though a lot of the DC books are twice a month, they're only $2.99 instead of Marvel's $3.99.
Honestly, not really, because DC was doing $3 for a while for a bunch of their books, and that wasn't really doing a difference. Remember when DC first did the Hold the Line at $2.99?
Uh-huh.
That was like 5 years ago.
Yeah,
they didn't change anything. They still had to reboot the entire line.
Yeah. Although I will say, when I do my marvelous review of a DC book on our sister, I've gotten with the World's Finest podcast. That $2.99 is my big selling point as a Marvel guy for picking it up. Although I do note that you don't get a what happened last issue page in DC books at $2.99, and you don't get a letters page. So you do get that extra content for that extra $1, including the extra digital issues. So,
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah,
yes.
That's actually a very good point. I always forget about that. The fact that they include that is a big thing.
Yeah, and as far as big events, I'm waiting for Acts of Vengeance 2. I they've been setting it up, and now that Old Man Logan is in the past, it's really, because you look at Old Man Logan, everything he's describing, that's totally an Acts of Vengeance scenario in the original Old Man Logan, of just different villains attacking heroes. And
I love Acts of Vengeance was such a good idea, but I remember what's John Byrne's classic line about it? Something along the lines of, we had this great idea for this nice interconnectivity of all the heroes and villains and moving everything around. Instead, we got like 20 shitty Doctor Doom stories.
You'll have to warn Rob about that. Officially, we're a family podcast, so we've got to watch our language.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Okay.
It's not me. I am very sorry. I should have quoted directly. My apologies.
Yes, that was John Byrne's fault. Curse you,
Not
Byrne.
his fault. No, curse you, Byrne.
Yes. We often curse writers. We will often nowadays say Bendis. As much as we love Bendis. And as much as I love Byrne. My first comic book was a Fantastic Four written by John Byrne. So I have nothing but love for Byrne.
That's a great quote. Hey, it's a great quote. It's a very astute. He usually has pretty sharp observations when he makes them. Occasionally. Sometimes they go too far, but very often he'll make some very sharp points.
So we don't want to run you too long. We don't want to keep on that. I do want to ask you a real quick question, because this is on our Nuff Said feed, which is our officially our Marvel channel. And the Nuff Said feed started out on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. It was started out as just an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. podcast.
Okay.
Do you watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Brian?
Yes.
You do? Okay. What do you think of this season?
I mean, I think they're doing a really good Ghost Rider.
Okay.
I think they're doing a really good Ghost Rider. I mean, there's that.
Okay.
It's a very impressive adaptation of Robbie Reyes. They're doing it very faithfully, and so I think they've been doing a really good job with Robbie Reyes.
And how do you feel about the magic versus science question? Because they do dance around that here, and I haven't seen Doctor Strange yet, but I don't know how close they get to actually saying magic is a magical thing, or how much it is just, well, this is just quantum superimposed realities.
Oh, right. What's any advanced science would seem to be magic, that sort of thing?
Yeah, that sort of thing. And I do wonder here. Now, my big belief is on the TV, they are going to switch it up in the end, and there is going to be this thing that isn't science at all, but just pure magic. But as they're setting it up now, it does look very science-based in their magic.
I don't know. When Johnny Blaze shows up in Robbie Reyes' origin from the last episode, that seemed to be pretty magic. When Johnny Blaze shows up and transfers the Ghost Rider to him, I don't know what's the science for that.
Fair enough. Okay. Now we usually wind up our nights, Brian, by giving some social media so people can find us and follow us and talk to us. How can people find you, Brian?
Well, I mean, see on Twitter, it's Brian_Cronin. It's also CXPG. That's probably the easier one. That's the Comics Should Be Good feed. I post links to all my articles, my Comics Should Be Good articles on that Twitter. And I'm on Facebook, Brian Cronin. Also, Legends Reveals on Facebook. So Comics Should Be Good.
Very good. And Phil, how can people find you?
You can always email me about any Marvel or DC things at nightwingpdp@gmail.com. On Twitter, I am at nightwingpdp, and just check out all my podcasts, Before the Bat, Legends of DC, and of course I'm here on Enough Said.
Excellent. And of course, your humble host, Charlie Lesser, can always be reached in that old-fashioned email way at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, @gmail.com. And of course, follow me on Twitter as I live tweet Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Legends of Tomorrow, and The Incredible Hulk 7 o'clock on Saturdays on MeTV for the Gamma Cast on the 80s Reboot Overdrive. At Charlie Esser, that's CharlieEsser. Let's put the 2 E's in the middle for quality. Thank you for joining us, ladies and gentlemen. Please super connect with us again. Good night.